Welcome. Oh, I don't know there, but welcome to a Podful of Saints on Wednesday, the 21st of April. Here we go, much earlier than usual, around about 1 o'clock, Wednesday afternoon, 21st of August, 2024, a Podful of Saints with myself, Dave Tavener, and a couple of part-time supporters, Lee Wood, who was at Clarence Park on Saturday.
Yes, hello everyone. Jake, I think we're going to trouble mate with this one today, I tell you.
And Jake Ellacott, who wasn't there on Saturday, had far more pressing engagements, but he was at Bridge Avenue last night. Good afternoon, Jake.
Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I'm glad, Dave, you just about remembered your own name, so that was a good start. So let's get going.
We'll come back later on to the embarrassment you went through on Saturday, Jake. No embarrassment for us, was there, Lee? Quite an entertaining game down the park, 2-2 with Worthing. I thought a share of the spoils was about right. We started well. They, I wouldn't say dominated, but they controlled for a long spell, and they went from 1 down to 2-1 up when we came back strongly. Does any of that coincide with the view from behind the goal?
Yeah, pretty much spot on, mate. Yeah, brilliant. Off you go. Absolutely fantastic. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah, I was sort of disheartened not to see more goals, actually. It was, I don't know what it is about these two teams, but they just, encourage a goal fest. And we weren't disappointed on Saturday, were we, Tavs?
No, it was quite enjoyable. It could be Ted. We actually only had one shot on target because, all right, Jack James bundled us into the league. I'm not lead on 5 minutes. I'm not sure he knew an awful lot about it. And then Ken Charles got the equaliser with a terrific header later in the game. And we've seen in these first few games, he's a very fine header of the ball. We saw it again last night. There was much to be pleased about from that. For me, again, the standout player of the new boys, or he's not really a new boy, is still David Long-King.
Yeah, but that shouldn't really be surprising given the fact that he's been playing at such a high level prior to coming to us. He commands the area so well. He's really dominant. He's strong. He's quick. He's got all the attributes you need to be a football league centre half, which is predominantly what he is, or what he was certainly. It was frustrating that other people aren't sort of stepping up to that just yet, but I'm sure that will come with time.
And Nobby made just one change from the Maidstone game. Brought Ben Smith in at left back for Dan Bowery. Now, I think in some ways, having seen Ben in the pre-season game of Bisham Abbey against Hayes at left back, I think he's better there when he's looking forward at play, encourages him to pass forward more. And I thought he did okay, but then he made 3 glaring errors, each of which could have resulted in a goal. I'm going to come on to his form last night in a minute as well. I just wonder, Lee, are we waiting for Lewis Michio to get fit and really solidify that position and our left-hand side? And are we just mucking through at the moment, putting people in there to fill the hole?
Exactly that, Taz. Exactly that. I think the fact that Barry got exposed quite earlier on in the season, when you're prepared to have a player play out of position, you probably get a good idea about how poor Barry's been. I thought Ben Smith did okay, as you say. Yes, of course, there were areas of concern, but look, as I say, I think he played in the back latter end of last season, and he did okay then. I think he's one of these players. He's obviously a gifted athlete. He's a really good footballer. At this level, you can probably get away with sort of playing him out of position, but not for any prolonged amount of time. Yes, we're waiting for that. We're waiting for that last piece of the puzzle in terms of defence.
It's interesting talking to supporters. They're picking up on players who are not playing well at the moment. Right. And that list grew in the first half last night. But did anybody you really think you were really pleased with on Saturday really stood out as looking good for the future?
I thought Alan looked okay. I thought Charles really shone in terms of his pace. First 15 minutes, I thought we could have been for an absolute cracker here. He just brings something different to that table, doesn't he? And I know we keep saying this, but the way he just glides past defenders, he finds that space in beyond the last man, and opens up a whole new world of possibilities. But I feel as though we're not just capitalising on the fact that those midfield runners should be more advanced at that stage. But then again, you know, if you can keep up with Ken Charles, mate, then I think you've done yourself well.
Well, one of the things I particularly liked about Saturday, we did nowhere near the number of back passes, particularly to Michael Johnson and to the back four, but we are seeing, or we're used to seeing under David Noble. That was encouraging. And again, last night they carried that on. It's not bringing us winning results, but it's given us more hope of getting goals, don't you think?
It is, but they obviously, you know, they listen to the pod, obviously, Tabs, because they hear you bleat on about it every single week. The boys, you know, they don't want post-match analysis from Nobby. They whack on the pod and they get all the news from us. You were right. I think it does. We were positive, and I thought especially so when Sean Jeffers came on to partner Charles up front. We had a whole new dynamic. It really did open us up, and it absolutely gave us the impetus. Because what happens is, Jeffers comes on, he automatically commands two people, and that gives you key strikers and your key front men in other areas just to thrive. And you could see it. You know, Worthing had no answer for that sort of 15-minute period where before Charles went back off again. You know, they were just amazing. They were opening up spaces. They were into play, and it was really positive stuff. We were getting in behind. We're using the wingers. We were stretching them, and that's what happens when you play two up front. I appreciate it can't always happen in terms of the way that Nobby wants to play, but it was a case of stick or twist, and he twisted, and it almost came off because the fact of the matter is we could have won, and we looked dangerous to the fact we got two up front now, and I think that really should have been the catalyst and an eye-opener for Nobby going forward into last night's game.
Talking of Sean Jeffers, I haven't watched the highlights yet. I don't know if you two have yet, but there looked to be a penalty right in front of us. He seemed to be brought down in the penalty area, and everybody around us went up for penalty. Only one person near me thought it wasn't a penalty. Did the highlights really show it?
I'm telling you now, mate, it's not the highlights. It was a bloody Stonewall penalty. It was an absolute penalty, and I've watched it back anyway. There's nothing there to suggest it wasn't a penalty. And the referee's looking straight at it. I mean, there was a chance, I think, a bit earlier when Sean was just basically power slammed to the floor and nothing was given. That was a Stonewall penalty. Jeffers was intelligent enough. He was quick enough to get it behind on the blind side of the defender. Defender then thought, shit, I'm in trouble here. He just bundled him over, absolutely bundled him over. And it was a penalty every single day of the week. And I'm not entirely sure what the referee's thought process was behind that.
The club couldn't be bothered to let supporters know that Tafari's more back at the club. But it's good to see him come on after an hour, but he just needs a bit more fitness.
He does. It was the worst kept secret in non-league football for the last fortnight. Lack of news, player news, isn't really a surprise in terms of what the club puts out these days. Maybe if he was holding a Chicken George bucket, you know, maybe that would have been a bit more news. But listen, we're going to need him. He's a really good player, and as you say, Dave, he's earning his fitness now, and that will come. He got a few more minutes as well, and ultimately we should have to defy more of old back, marauding down those wings once again soon.
Well, we mentioned last week about Worthing not changing their style since they had a change of manager, and Chris Agata has come in since Adam Hinshelwood went to York. They played the same, pass it at the back, go backwards, sideways, across the box, and they looked so uncomfortable, I felt, didn't you? And all around us, people saying it. But they're an accident waiting to happen back there. And that previous games, in this high-scoring spell between the two clubs, we have punished them. We didn't Saturday doing that. But crikey, they don't look comfortable, do they?
No, not at all. And I think it's that first distribution from the goalkeeper to the defender. I mean, our strikers, it was almost a foot away from sort of getting onto the end of that. I think in the middle third, they play how we want to play, possession and tempo at the same time. I mean, Willard got far too much space in the middle of that park all day Saturday, first half in particular, and he caused trouble. He was allowed to turn. turn with no one. And even when he turned, there was no one anywhere near him. And he was able just to pick up those through balls, and it caused us problems. I think one of them led to their first goal, perhaps. But look, you can't do that. You know, you're trying to build a setup there and a formation for that solidity in the middle of the park, but yet you're letting one of the opposition just turn you with at ease and at will, and causing us massive problems. The sooner we can get Ben Smith back in that hole to maybe shore that up a little tiny bit, maybe the better. Who knows?
Well, already in Alfie Payne and Sam Deadfield, you've got two defensive midfielders, really. So you can't really have Ben Smith in there as well, can you? Because we're not going to create anything.
Well, the defensive midfielders, in so much as that's where they've been asked to play, I would absolutely like to see both of those pushed on a little bit more. There's no reason at all why Alfie Payne and Deadfield can't be pushed up more and cause damage that end of the pitch. Playing your five at the back, you know, it's all well and good, but why can't we have four and then have your fifth almost as like that holding role? That gives you just as much protection, especially when you're getting sort of out-muscled in midfield a little bit, if you like. That should have been tried in pre-season. That's what your pre-season's for. The fact the Nobbies persevered with this formation, it's fine, but it's got to work now because you're persisting with it, and you're persisting, and you're pushing it and pushing it. And we aired on this last week. The changes, apart from when he brought Jeffers on, the changes up to this point this season have just been good for bad. You know, you're not changing the formation. He did that on Saturday against Worthing, 2 up top. Look what happened. We were expansive, we were quicker, we were more authoritative on the ball, and we pushed them right back because they were coming back into the tie. And you know, they scored some good goals, but we then put the impetus back on them. And that's what happens when you change the formation. You play to players' strengths, and look what happens. We cause them problems as opposed to us just waiting for us to capitulate. It's common sense, surely.
Talking of formations and the way teams play, we had a comment underneath the podcast last week from Roger Melly. I don't know if either of you two know him. I'm not familiar with him. Nope, shaking of heads there. He said, moan when we play it out from the back, moan when we play it long. Nobby can't win. Well, he certainly can't. We've only won one of the last 11 league games. But we're not moaning at playing it out from the back. What we moan about is going back to the back all the time. Playing it out from goal kicks around the penalty area is stupid. But playing it out from back is fine, as long as you're going forward, as you mentioned there, Lee, with more pace, like Worthing did in their midfield. That's fine, but going back all the time, which hopefully the last couple of games we've seen less of, and playing it long, playing it long against Maidstone just consisted of 3 long punts in the first 5 minutes for anybody up there in the yellow shirt to get after it. That wasn't proper playing it long. That was big boot. But accept your point. Fair enough. Right, there we go. Were you able to follow the Worthing game at all, Jake, or were you otherwise disposed at the time?
Yeah, mostly busy. Didn't have much signal. I was just, don't need to know why. But
I think we do.
Yeah.
Au contraire, my follically challenged friend. This is exactly the sort of content we're here for.
Well, I was at a football stadium. That's the main thing. So
what was it? What game was you playing?
It was Taylor Swift away. Yes.
Swifty.
It's funny you're at a football stadium. I thought we were at a pub garden with food and whatnot. But there you go.
But no, I wasn't able to keep up with it much. But I have to say, I was quite happy when I saw the result. I would have taken a draw beforehand, and I was quite happy with it. And then sort of everyone explained how we played. Not too bad, but for me, there was 2. It's the second goal for both teams, I think, were 2 of the big focus points for me. There's the free kick. It's not great goalkeeping, is it, from Michael Johnson? I think it's fair to say he should be saving that, and I think you saw that in his reaction after the goal on the highlights. But also our second goal, Charles, it was a good finish, but it comes, like from Lee sort of hinted at earlier, from Sean Jeffers being there. Sean literally takes those 2 defenders away, leaves a nice big alleyway for Ken Charles to run down. We know he can finish well with his head, and he did exactly that. So just those 2, I thought, 2 interesting talking points from the game.
Good ball in, though. Can I just say, it's a great ball in from Jack James. Really good.
Yes. The crowd 1,201, 900 down, and when we played them in April. Difference being that game we had a chance to get for the playoffs, a bit of a long shot, and Worthing very much going for it. And now we're in the holiday period, but 1,200 is still a decent crowd this time of the year. We'll take that.
Yeah.
Right, anything else to add from that game, or can we consign it to history?
Let's do that quickly.
Right, we move on to Essex now, where we were last night. Slow journey there, nightmare getting back. A 1-0 defeat at Hornchurch. First time we've been there, for about 20 years, and the first time we've lost there for about 40 years. Haven't been unbeaten in the 6 most recent meetings, so not a great night all around for us. 1-0 defeat. Good goal, Tom Wright, ball over the top, absolutely perfect. Into the path of Femi Akawemi and stuck it away with some aplomb. 1 down 10 minutes, and I don't know what you thought that first half, Jake. I'll come on to what other people said in a minute, but we looked a very poor side in that first half.
Yeah, we weren't great, were we? I mean, that goal, just to start with, we give it away, don't we, high up the pitch, and we just don't deal with it. There's no response, there's no stepping onto it. I think it's Rasulo that loses it. Then the ball over the top, I think Partington and Ben Smith both struggle really to do anything about it. I think Partington has caught the pace, isn't he? Straight away, he knew the game was up. There was no covering there, and then Michael Johnson wasn't able to get out, and it was a brilliant finish. And when that went in, I thought, oh no, here we go. This is really bad. And yeah, the rest of that first half, it wasn't great. Before that goal, we had a decent chance. Ken Charles had a header saved. So that was all right. But then after that, we struggled, didn't we? We didn't really get much momentum going in the rest of that first half. Again, at the back, we looked a little bit shaky, actually, I think. Quite worrying at times. Ben Smith at sort of left centre half really struggled, I think it's fair to say, against a physical and strong team in Hornchurch. He couldn't cope with it, and I do feel sorry for him because it's not his natural role there. And we looked short ideas. When we got the ball forward, especially down the left, we had a little bit of luck, but then every time it came in from the left, it wasn't a great delivery. And it was just, we weren't clicking, were we? I think it's fair to say in that first half at all.
No, we had, as you hinted at, a couple of half chances, but nothing really significant after that Ken Charles header. Very good save by Mason Terry. But 1-0 down at half time, maybe we got away with one there. But that said, Michael Johnson didn't have they have a lot of saves to make. But we were struggling defensively. Ben Smith had an absolutely torrid time last night.
Yeah.
And that he was replaced at half time by Tafari Moore. Was no big surprise. And you'd imagine they'll probably stick with that for Saturday. Hopefully get 90 minutes out of Tafari. But he wasn't the only one. Gio Rasulu is so far off his game this season, it isn't true. He got substituted 57. He was lucky not to come up at half time. But supporters, they were great. I gave him a big hand when he went off, because he came up in front of us, but he didn't acknowledge them. Now, that sort of thing did not go down well by some of the comments we heard. And, you know, for supporters to begin them support like that after the first half we had, they deserve something back in return, which the players at full time did give them, I will say. But he wasn't the only one. You mentioned down the left, Josh Castiglione. Again, he's struggling. He did well one thing in the second half, brought the ball down, got a shot in, which keeper saved. It was straight at keeper, but he hit it well. But apart from that, he's another one. He's not hitting any sort of good form at all yet. And yeah, I'd agree at the back. I think Joe is struggling for pace. He's been exposed a few times. And that first half, you really couldn't see things changing because Zane Banton was off his game as well. But the second half, we dominated. We didn't have chance after chance. We hit the bar. Sam Deadfield, how he didn't score, I don't know. Probably explains why he didn't score a goal last season. But it's true, isn't it? We're looking for midfielders to back up when the forwards aren't getting the goals, and it didn't happen. We did enough to save that game second half, didn't we? Without over troubling the keeper too much.
Yeah, I think we did, and we probably almost did enough actually that you could argue on another day we win that. Hornchurch didn't have many opportunities, did they? Really? In that second half, I mean, Deadfield. I mean, what, how, why? And also Jack James as well. Jack James had a glorious opportunity that he sort of leant back and decided to hit a ball so far over. I think it landed somewhere in Suffolk. It was a frustrating evening. It was game of two halves, such a cliche, but first half really poor, second half so much better. I think part of that was Tafari Moore coming on that left-hand side. We looked a lot more comfortable there with him there, I think. But also, Sean Jeffers coming on, 57th minute, wasn't it, for Rasulo, you said, Dave? And then suddenly, Hornchurch were pretty much, they were just pinned back, weren't they? Because they had to deal with two men. And again, it wasn't Ken Charles's best night. He had a couple of half chances that he really struggled to do anything with. And I think part of the problem with that was he was so isolated. It was a strong Hornchurch team. To be honest, they bullied him, I thought. They had him on paper, and he needed support around him. Rasulo and Banton weren't doing that first half. Second half, with Sean up there was a little bit more support, I thought, that could bring other players, including Ken Charles, into the game and create a bit more space. That two up top, I thought it just gave the team a much better balance in that second half, I thought, against a Hornchurch team that I think were quite happy to sit back. It's fair to say they were quite happy to withstand the pressure. But the balance of the overall team was so much better when we had that sort of front step looking to attack early on.
Yeah, we were a lot more attack-minded. But funny enough, trying to remember Sean touching the ball. It didn't happen many times, did it?
No.
A couple of half chances there you mentioned for Ken Charles in that second half. But between the two of them, they didn't create. A lot of chances were not created for them. Whether it's their fault, not getting in the right positions and whatnot, I doubt it. I think it was the supply into the box needed to be better, and that what was lacking. I agree with you. Hornchurch, I think, were happy to try and ride out the storm. A couple of their players went down mysteriously late in the game. Seems to happen, doesn't it? The goalkeeper was on a sponsored walk whenever he got the ball, and the referee let him have as much time as he want. I don't know. Well, we did enough, but we didn't score. Haven't scored in 2 of the 3 league games, which is not a great start. Our lowest points total for 9 years after 3 games. So we're just tucked in the mere not 8 points behind the leaders, ready to strike. It's not a great start, but we've seen signs in those last 2 games. There could be better days ahead.
Yeah, definitely. There's no point to just totally lose the plot, is there, at the minute? I think another chance we have mentioned is probably Sam Meeks, isn't it? At the end, he came on very late, sort of had a ball float over to him, and he attempted a little salmon leap. Didn't really work. Again, you wonder if it's a different story if that falls to probably Ken Charles actually out of both of them, but maybe even Sean Jeffers. But there are some positive signs, but there are also some concerning signs, especially in that first half. I think quite a few comments I've heard from fans since the game last night was Hornchurch away is the kind of game where you need to be picking up something, even if it's just a point, if you do want to be sort of making that step towards a top 7 finish. I know it's so early to say that. And I mentioned last week about how tough a game this would be, and the week before about if we're to have a good start or good season, we need to actually make a good start this season. We didn't have it last year. And at the minute, we haven't got it now, and there are tough games coming up. So, yeah, it's the game, lots of positives, but quite a few negatives as well, I think.
I took my friend John with me, and he spoke to other people I did at half-time. And the feedback he got, he said it was the most negative about a team this early in the season, but he can remember the stick they were getting. It wasn't being shouted out. It was spoken amongst supporters for the way we played that first half. And you could understand it. And they redeemed themselves a bit in that second half. But again, there's a lot of players there who are falling well short at the moment. And most of them got substituted. Well, for the first time ever, we used 5 subs in the league game. I mean, it's easy being a manager now. You can practically play for the whole team when you've got it wrong with kick-off time. But I don't know. He's got to get it right from the off, because we've got to make a good start in the game and hang on to a lead sometime.
Yeah. Go on, Lee.
I was just going to say, I think you've hit it on the head there, Jake. I think we needed that good start for 2 reasons. One, to give Nobby that confidence as well, because obviously there were some comments and stuff about him coming back. So to shut them up, you needed him to have a good start straight off the cuff. But also, if we could be serious challengers for this. Now, I know everyone was. I genuinely thought we'd get something out of Hornchurch. I was looking at it. They had some injuries, and maybe they weren't quite warmed up yet in terms of finding their feet in this new league. I thought it was a good time to play them. Obviously, turned out not quite the case. We needed that good start, and we haven't quite got it yet. And okay, we're looking ahead a little bit. We've got some teams coming up that we can perhaps fancy ourselves up, and then some that we don't. So Hornchurch picking up points, absolutely, for crying out loud. I mean, why can't we? We've gone to bigger and better places than Hornchurch and got results. So, that's the sort of mentality. And, it's quite defeatist when people say, oh, Hornchurch are a good side. Not when they have not earned it. I mean, I listened to it on the wireless, and it sounds as though we had enough there to maybe get something out of the game. Tavs, you moan when he's not on the pitch. You moan when he is on the pitch. Jeffers just can't win, mate. So it's I think you're absolutely right. There are players there who are not performing. Rizzulo being a key one for me. I'm not entirely sure we've got a full good game out of him for quite some time. But then he's not the only one. And I don't know what it is. Is it fitness? Is it formation? Is it just that mental application there? We've got to try something, because before we know it, we could be going into the autumn and we're already creaking in terms of the foundations. And we haven't got time to muck around now, because we have got. I still believe we've got a good squad, right, boys? I mean, I don't know whether you feel as though there's no massive gaping holes. I think if he can get a formation that he's happy with, and you get two up front with Charles and Jeffers, I think that's okay. It's a bit more expansive, and we could come unstuck. But at least give it a go over a period of time where we can establish this, and hopefully it'll bear fruit.
There are gaping holes while there are so many players underperforming, because he's not got that strong a squad. You go maybe 15 players, could interchange those, and it shouldn't make much difference. But beyond that, you are struggling to get an in-depth squad there. So he can't afford any injuries. But of course, our dear old friend loans must be kicking in soon, surely.
Your friend and ours, Tabs. Your friend and ours.
But then, I mean, we say that, but then what position would we say what we need a loan in for the minute? I don't know.
Well, out wide, do you stick Iffy Allen out there, although he's more right-sided, for Castiglione, who's on the left? As one option, switch him over to the other side. You can push Tafari more down that left-hand side and stick somebody else at left back and plug the hole that way.
Yeah.
But listen to us, though. But listen to us. We're thinking about plugging holes. There shouldn't be holes. 4 games into the season, we should have an established formation where everyone is thriving or looking to do something positive. And we haven't quite got that yet. Jake touched on it again. Boys on fire today about not just overreacting at this stage of the season. I absolutely 100% agree with that. However, are we addressing this? I heard Nobby say on his post-match from last night that if we keep performing like that, then results will come. Yeah, but maybe there's not sort of the sort of results that we're after. It is frustrating, and I think Saturday was a different one because we'd come from behind and we played well towards the end of the game as well. But last night, we flicking through all the messages and the chats on our WhatsApp group, Jake, wasn't exactly complimentary. And I dare say you and your merry men weren't as equally as positive about the outcome, Tabs. But I just don't know what needs to happen in order for David Noble to look at the formation and think, maybe I haven't quite got it quite right here.
Well, a message I received just before we started doing this, it said, quite enjoyed our style of play in the second half, and with decent finishing, we would have won. I do hope that a lack of success won't mean that Nobby resorts back to boring crab football. So he wants him to stick with his more positive style, and hopefully it will bring rewards in time.
Yeah, I mean,
we shall see.
We have been a bit more positive the last 2 games, haven't we, style-wise and attacking-wise, which is good to see, and it is working. But we also need to put the chances away. You need people to put them away, or you need the people that can put them away to get into those positions. We talked about Rosillo and Banton. They didn't really get into any goal-scoring positions, did they, last night? And they're sort of probably the goal-scoring midfielders in the team, arguably. And also, like someone said earlier, like the delivery into the box has got to be better as well. Ken Charles and Sean Jeffers, they didn't really have much of a delivery to get onto last night. and the chances weren't there. So, yeah, I think there has been quite a bit of a reaction from, and actually, I think during the game, I think there was quite a reaction, especially from some of the younger fans. I think there were some shouts that were particularly complimentary, and it's understandable. But I think we need to need to not panic. We are only 3 games in. The only thing that makes me worry is looking at the games we've got coming up, which those are tough games.
Well, we've got a relegation battle on
Oh,
Saturday.
God's sake, Dave.
Cheshire United at Clarence Park. We started the season well, didn't they, on their first game at this level with a draw with Eastbourne. Not a bad result at all. Since then, 2 home defeats against a club whose name I can't remember, plus then defeat at home to Western-super-Mare last night. Chance to reunite ourselves with Mitchell Reese and Callum Adebayo. It's a game I wouldn't say we've got to win, but surely, maybe, is it unfair to say we would expect to win?
I think we've got to win because it's going to kickstart our season. How long do you want to sort of leave it until we then say, okay, well, now we're going to start taking this whole thing a little bit more seriously? We cannot just go, okay, well, we're only a month into the season, right? But then we've been here before, Tavs. Suddenly we're, okay, now we're 2 months into the season and we're still not playing to our full potential. We have to win because I'll tell you what, if you don't win against Cheshire at home and then you're having to go to Dorking to try and get something, good luck, because I'll tell you what, that sort of a mindset is not going to work.
You fancy a Saturday, Jake, to finally get that home win under our belts?
Yes, I guess. I agree with Dave Lee. Sorry, agree with Lee. You've got to. I apologise. We've got to be positive going to this game, haven't we? In terms of our mental approach, but also actual play. We can't afford to go behind to these lot on Saturday. I don't think, because we know that teams will happily just sit back, especially a team like Cheshire that I think will probably look to hit us on the counter attack with the pace of Mitch, the attacking style of Nathan Minasu, who they signed from Slough, has already got 2 goals this season. They are dangerous in those forward areas, even if defensively they don't look particularly spectacular at the minute. We've got to be careful. So I think we've got to impose ourselves on. And we said it last week, we can only impose ourselves if all the players, especially in the midfield areas, are up to their best and doing their jobs. Your Bantons, your Rasulos, your Deadfields and Paynes, they've all got to be at their best, I think, on Saturday if we are to take control of the game like we did second half against Hornchurch.
Beautifully said. Right. I fancy us to win, I must admit. But I don't know. Unless more players step up, we are going to struggle again. He's not going to change it, go 2 up front from the start. You can't see it. At corners last night, we were leaving 2 players up. Unbelievably, first few minutes where we did left to it, some bloke still got a free header at the near post. We just don't pick players up. Whether we've got 11 back there or 9 back there, somehow we don't always seem to get tight enough. And they should have got an early lead from that Hornchurch. But again, that was another encouraging sign from the way we lined up.
Bloody hell, man. You win when they all push back. You moan when they're leaving up. I think I don't know. Go on.
I think it's called pointing out rather than moaning, Lee.
Well, to be fair, mate, you talking often resorts to you just moaning anyway. So the 2 often go hand in hand, Taz. What I would say, my friend, is that I think Tafari comes straight back into the side on Saturday. I think that will give instant balance, but also another threat. It will bring stability on that side. It may possibly free up a space where we can then have 2 up front. I think Rasulo and Banton have been pretty much non-existent for large parts of this season so far, albeit only 3 games in, of course. But it's important. It's important to get this relationship started now because the fact of the matter is we're not mucking around. It's, we are genuine. We believe we are genuine contenders, but we've got to start acting like it sooner rather than later.
I don't agree. I said mid-table, 11th pre-season, and not seen a lot to change that so far. Right, Dorking on Monday. Expected to be one of our toughest tests of the season. Yep. They started off with wins away to Truro with a late goal, then a win at home to Chippenham. Both of us the odd goal, and a 2-2 draw with Bournemouth last night. You'd expect them and those two to possibly be battling out the title. Yeah, as we said, it's as tough as they're going to come. How do we approach it? Do we try and take it to them, or do we try and take the sting out of it?
I'm not entirely sure Nobby is prepared to go full-throated and sort of attack them. I think he's just going to sit in, wait for our chance, and go from there. I spoke to Jake about this last week about Dorking because we're looking at the fixtures over only like the first month or so. One or two things is going to happen here. We're going to pull out a performance for the ages and somehow sneak a win with a gritty, determined, positive, proactive display. We're going to get absolutely humped. And if we show signs of any weakness, if players aren't, playing in the positions that they're supposed to be, anything like that, Dorking are going to take us to the absolute cleaners. And it's one I'm not looking forward to at all.
You're a bit more optimistic, Jake?
I think so, yeah. I didn't expect that to go so negative from Lee. I think positives, it's a 3G pitch, suits our style of play. No, I think I wouldn't be shocked to see us be a bit more defensive-minded potentially on Monday. But I don't think it'd be the worst idea in the world. We've seen Dorking winning by the odd goal or two, aren't they, at the minute? So maybe that's an approach to take. But when you look at their team sheet, they've kept a lot of that team. I know they went down last season, but a lot of that team took them up three years ago. So they've kept a lot of that team. A lot of them are older, wiser now. It's going to be difficult, even looking at their forwards. I mean, they've got Jason Pryor, Alfie Rutherford, and Reece Murphy. Don't want to know how many goals they've got between them all in the National League and National League South. So it's a real concern. And I think a key thing going into Monday will be, I think for me, actually making sure Tafari Moore gets through fit and unscathed and a bit more match fitness going into Monday. Because, I mean, if you've got someone like Ben Smith there on Monday, it could be a real... He will really struggle, I think it's fair to say. And it wouldn't be fair on him to expect him to be doing that job, I think, against Dorking on Bank Holiday Monday.
I suppose you could look at it and say the expectations are all on Dorking.
Yeah.
Particularly if we don't get a favourable result Saturday, a draw or defeat, which hopefully we won't. Quite confident we're going to win. But if we go into it with only 1 or 2 points on the board, all the expectations is on them, which in a perverse way can work in our favour. But I'd rather we went there with confidence of a win behind us. And should we start with 2 up front at Dorking? I'd like to see us try that.
Yeah, I mean that is tough, isn't it? Because the thing is, no one's really expecting us to get anything from Dorking, certainly not win at Dorking. It's different for teams like Hornchurch and Chesham's, respectfully. But you're looking at the Dorkings, you could probably earmark maybe half a dozen games where you think if we get anything out of this, it's going to be a pure bonus. Playing 2 up front, I'm going to agree with Jake on this. I think it makes more sense to sort of compact yourself early doors against teams like that, and then maybe there's an opportunity later on, similar to what happened with Worthing, where you bring on 2 up front and try and stretch the game then. But that's all well and said, but you've still got to be in the game at that stage in order to sort of do that. We always wait until we're a goal down to really sort of impose ourselves with the key players that we have in those positions. But that's why David Noble's getting paid and we're not. So it's up to him, but he's got to live and die by his actions, certainly over the next sort of week or so, because it's 2 really important games, both for different reasons.
It gets easier after that. We're at home to the league leaders Saturday week, so what more could you ask for?
Dave, it'd be nice to go into that game on Monday with a bit of momentum, wouldn't it? We'd not be able to carry any momentum from the Worthing result, the draw. I know it's only a draw, but not being able to carry any of that because we went straight into a game that unfortunately we lost, even though we maybe should have got something. So it'd be nice to pick up 3 points on Saturday and try and use that to kick onto Monday, and whether we can get a draw or something like that. Hopefully that'd be a nice way to go, I think. But I think out of the 2 games to try 2 up front, I'd say if we're going to do it, try it against Chesham to start with, and you have success with it, then maybe see how that goes into Monday. But I suspect the only change we'll see to the team for Saturday is Tafari Moore, hopefully coming in to start.
I don't know. I think Nobby may make a couple of changes. We shall see. Anyway, we speculate until the cows come home. But I'll be very surprised if he makes just that one change on Saturday. Right, so we have some predictions for Saturday. Chesham. Well, obviously that's a 2-0 win. What have you two got?
3-1 Saints.
Lee, still awake?
Yeah, thankfully. I'm going to go 2-1.
2-1. And Dorking. While you're on, Lee, you can go again on that one.
I think we're going to lose 3-1.
Jake?
Yeah, I'm going to predict my first defeat of the season, sort of in the hope it might be wrong. I'll go for 2-0 defeat.
Oh, it's taken my score away. Of course, only one of us has predicted the correct outcome, if not the correct result, for the first 3 league games. So I might have to change. It's funny you should mention that, Lee. I'm just looking at it here. Well, who would have
Funny
thought
how that works. I know,
Yeah.
right?
Amazing. Well, I'm not going to make it 3 straight defeats out of us 3. I'll go for 1-1 with Jake having pinched my 2-0.
So it might not be a cruel summer after all then, Tav, if you're predicting...
Very good, Lee. Very good. That's a Taylor Swift reference, Dave, if you weren't sure about that.
Is that one of the songs she murdered? Because originally Cruel Summer was murdered by Bananarama, wasn't it?
Oh, come on, Tav, shake it off, mate. Come on, leave it alone.
That's another one. Brilliant. I think before we go, we should mention, a bit like at the end of Nobby's post-match last night, the fans at Hornchurch. It's good following, wasn't it, Dave? And I think it's not the most ideal stadium to watch football in, it's fair to say.
No, the running track doesn't help, but around the side, it's not that bad, actually, is it? There's plenty of worse grounds. Certainly Chelmsford's a lot further away from the pitch than that was. The point is going behind the goal because you wouldn't see anything. Yeah, maybe the highlight of the night was standing on the far side and looking at the windmill.
The windmill?
Didn't you see it?
No, I didn't know. And to be honest, I think if you stand behind the goal, I think you're in a different postcode. So, but yeah, fair play to the following Saints fans. It was a decent number there last night. They tried to make good support, and at the end, they gave the lads a good support at the end, despite losing. So, which was good to see.
I'll tell you what, I've been sorry, Jake. I've been receiving more complaints about how poor the website is for the news it puts out. I won't read Roger Taylor's brother. He's what he said about it. It wasn't very complimentary. And last night again, little complaining, and the Twitter thing. I believe the head of media has recently quit. Lee, anybody new come in? Do you know of?
It's actually me.
Surprise!
Could you imagine the shitstorm that would cause? I mean, talk about bad blood, right? I mean, good lord. No, so yeah, Matt Pigg. I think he's leaving the role soon. He's done fantastic work there. It's a thankless task, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's so it's in the hands of someone else now. So watch this space.
Have they made an appointment? Do you know or not?
I've absolutely no idea, mate. No one talks.
All right. Okay. All right, then. Right, we'll move on from that and toast a victory this coming Saturday in one of these.
Oh, look at that. Dave was scrabbling around to find one at full time yesterday. God, but hey, recyclable cups, they'll never catch on, will they, Lee?
Oh, mate, don't go there.
Right, on that note, if we don't have anything else to say, we'll say thank you very much for watching. Podful of Saints on Twitter. Email below, let us know your thoughts and views, and if you have anything to complain to Dave about.
Don't be put off by Taz. Please don't be put off. Leave your comments because it gives us content to wonder up about them. Yeah. You know, please do email in, do message us. It is a true love story. We want your interaction. Oh, Jacob is going to give you all the information.
So many Taylor Swift references in this last 5 minutes, all of straight over Dave's head. So thank you all very much for watching, and we will speak to you again next week after the Saints pick up 6 points this time, right? Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.